A lot of the wealth in Chattanooga is from Coca-Cola bottling. Me and my partners are like, hey, we need to create more wealth here. This cluster that's building here, there's 90 companies now that are involved with logistics. The truth is, like, logistics is cool now. We started Dynamo 8 years ago. I'd moved to London and I met a guy named John Bradford, and he started looking at our portfolio at lampposts. He goes, man, we should start a fund just focus on logistics. Is logistics big enough? We're like, hell yeah, it's big enough. Brickyard currently invests in founders that have to move to Chattanooga, burn the ships for a year. So the whole industry, it's not going anywhere, but it's going to transform and go different directions. What's going to happen in 10 years? I mean, who knows? So this is a Brickyard. I'll kind of give you some background on this. This is an old Persian rug factory.
Persian rugs?
Persian rugs. So notice all the rugs we have everywhere. Yeah. So you kind of homage to them. We bought this a couple years ago. A couple years ago, we did something called Lamppost Group. Lamppost Group was kind of Brickyard 1.0. And so Lamppost kind of came out of Access America, actually. But two of the founders of Bellhops, a guy named Cameron Duty, Matt Patterson, were like, hey, we need to run it back and do Lamppost again. And so Brickyard is actually, you probably don't know this, when we started Access, Barry's dad owned a brick company called Key James Brick in Alton Park.
Was he your first customer?
Yes. That's
I've
right.
heard this story.
Yeah. So we were in Alton Park in a kind of a low economic area in Chattanooga, starting Access America hauling bricks. And so anyway, Brickyard, the name is kind of a hat tip to Barry's dad.
Everything's connected.
That's right. Yeah, we've kind of thought that through. So anyway, so Brickyard, currently we're kind of on our second fund. We're about to have our third fund. But the whole premise is this, we invest in founders that have to move to Chattanooga, burn the ships for a year. So these teams, I mean, you come here at 10 o'clock tonight, it's going to feel exact same. I mean, we've got 18 teams in here, 55 people just grinding. And so the teams have to move from all over the world. And we've got a, CrossFit gym, cold plunge, sauna, steam room.
The necessities.
Exactly, right? Duh. And so anyway, so the teams move to Chattanooga and, our goal is to get $1 million in ARR. So that's it. It's a sprint to get $1 million. And then if it makes sense, move back to New York, SF, Chicago, wherever you came from. Or if, a lot of these teams end up staying here, which has been really cool for us as folks that love the community. But it's agnostic. I mean, it's mostly software. We have a few hardware companies, but we're kind of across the board just looking for the baddest founders on the planet.
Are you drowning in invoice chaos? Stop digging through inbox threads and email attachments to piece together your AP process. ePay Manager centralizes invoicing, document audit, and payments in one control system. Enjoy more clarity and less chaos with ePay Manager. Learn more by going to epaymanager.com.
Everyone seems to find, there's a strong network here. People find success and they end up staying.
Yes.
And either because they're from here or because they just want to stay here.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're not from here.
No, yeah.
So I guess take me through how you ended up here.
My quick story, yeah. I grew up in Birmingham. I was born in Birmingham, but then I lived in Germany, actually. Ich spreche Deutsch, nicht so gut. I lived in Germany from ages 3 to 6. Yeah. My dad was he was an oral surgeon in the Army. And so I kind of lived overseas for a couple years. Then I came back to Birmingham, finished up school there. I went to Samford University. I say it quick so people think Stanford, but it's Samford with an M. And I met Barry and Alan, my two best friends. We were fraternity brothers. And so kind of in college, we talked about starting actually a Smoothie King franchise. That didn't work out. Thankfully, my wife talked us out of it. And so then I just took a job with C.H. Robinson. And so I was in Birmingham for a second. Then they transferred me to Nashville. And I ran a refrigerated LTL division, which I look back at my life, that could have been one of the hardest things I've ever done, without a doubt. So you would go around and consolidate all these LTLs of different temperatures into a cold storage, and I would build 13 drop loads from Nashville to Arizona, okay? And then I'd have to be on the phone with Walmart trying to get appointments and different temperatures, and then I'd have to talk a driver into doing it. But I'd have $7,000 of revenue on a load, and it would take a guy a week to deliver. But they would get paid $5,000 or something. So it was really kind of interesting, and I kind of built that from really scratch. I had a really great manager in Nashville at C.H. Robinson. So came on a sales call to Chattanooga in 2002, and Barry's family had this brick company going on. So I started showing them some ways they could save money with their freight, and I'd never even booked a flatbed load in my life. And so anyway, me and Barry and his dad and brother said, hey, we should do this on our own. And so we kind of started the company, and we brought on our partner, Alan, who's kind of more of the, he's the techie guy. He's kind of the engineer guy. Barry did finance and I did sales. So we had a lot of trust with each other. And, we'd always wanted to do something together. So my wife and I moved from Nashville to Chattanooga in August of 2002. And so we started just super humbly in a small office, but we set really big goals for ourselves. And, we saw some things we liked at C.H. Robinson. And then C.H. at the time had bought American Backhaulers, which is Jeff Silver's company. And so I was working with them as well. And I remember looking back and remember talking to them on the phone and being like, whoa, the people in that office, I go, they sound different. And that's kind of the energy that we wanted. And so anyway, so that's kind of baked into when we started the company, being like, hey, we want to do things radically different. We want to treat drivers really well, treat them like professionals. We want to we created freight awards and all these things. We just, Alan created a fantasy football for logistics, for our companies to have infighting competitions. And then we actually kind of helped. That was one of the things that rolled out Ambition, a company we helped back. So we had a lot of fun. We had 3 employees with company logo tattoos. I don't know. Where's your truck parking club
one
tattoo?
of my colleagues has one, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and she's hardcore, so yeah, you would like her. And so when did you started Access when?
So we started that in 2002.
Okay.
And then kind of the second company we started was a trucking company, actually, called AAT Cares. We hauled a bunch of government freight. We were in the AA&E industry, arms, ammunition, explosives. So we kind of got into that. And so that was kind of the second company we started. And then from that, a guy named Andrew Ladabouche, he's CEO of Reliance Partners. He was trying to sell us insurance. And then we were like, man, Andrew's awesome. We really like this. Access America is working with 80,000 different trucking companies. Probably pretty good lead list for an insurance guy. And so that kind of led to us starting at Reliance Partners Insurance. So those are kind of the first 3 things we did. And then Alan kind of had an idea to start Lamppost. And so we did something very similar to this downtown Chattanooga in the Lovman's building. And so we took some of our capital and we put it into 25 companies. Alan was thinking about moving to San Francisco. He was kind of getting bored with stuff, and EPB was launching the gig, and CoLab is this a nonprofit here in town. They're doing this thing called Create Here. So there's a lot of energy at the time, and we're like, man, let's just kind of triple down on where we're living. We're enjoying starting things and backing founders and building things together. And so the 3 of us just kind of put our heads together and put more capital to entrepreneurs locally.
And so you literally came here just because your partner's father had a brick company.
Yeah.
And you were like, okay, we're here. Were they your first customer?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, and like I said, we were doing flatbed freight, and then I started finding some good steel companies. One company called LJT Steel, and one in Trenton called Bull Moose Tube. And so what I would do is I would find a bunch of outbound flatbed freight. And all their freight was all inbound, mostly from Atlanta, Kingsport, Charlotte. And so I developed these round trip loads. And so I'd have, hey, you want to load from steel from here to Charlotte? And I got a load of brick coming back. And so I kind of created a mini little a bunch of local guys kind of just work for us. It was a weird kind of quasi, asset-based company, but they were all just, their own owner operators. Yeah. And that was really cool. Then Chad Eichelberger came on early. And dude, when he showed up, things changed. He was just he's wired at a different level. And then I recruited Steve Cox in Minneapolis. Steve at the time, him and I worked together at C.H. Robinson in Nashville. He moved home, started working for Target in logistics. And probably the best sales job I ever did was to get him to leave Target to come work for a startup. And he started that branch up there with just him and a guy named Eric Larson. And in 5 years, he grew up to 200 people, doing $200 million. I mean, just complete beast. And so that was a huge, huge growth option for the company, was Steve up there in Minneapolis. And Access ended up having 9 offices, but we're super proud of the alumni that have come out of our thing. We were really big on training. really big on culture. I mean, we did the most intense sales training ever. I mean, people are like basically crying with the sales training we did. People, we'd bring them here, new employee seminar, and I mean, we would really just go hard at folks and teach them the skills. And I mean, I've had tons of people through the years being like, man, that training I got was so good. And so yeah, man, we're very aggressive too on our commission plans. So I was CEO, and people are making more money than me. And so we created this pod system. Alan kind of created that. You kind of hear about that a lot in the industry now. A lot of that was kind of some innovation that he kind of came up with. And so we were fine to pay people a lot of money. I was super proud. We gave a lot of equity to folks in the company. So when we sold to Coyote, a lot of people made a lot of money, which was really cool because we were all still pretty young at the time. And that was, but that really, I think, helped spurn a lot of the early freight brokers in Chattanooga kind of came out of that.
Today's podcast is also brought to you by GoodShip. GoodShip is the all-in-one platform for freight orchestration and procurement built for transportation teams by transportation teams. GoodShip unifies freight data, surfaces real-time insights, and helps teams move from reactive decision-making to coordinated, data-driven execution. With the recent launch of Laney, the industry's first AI transportation analyst, teams can ask questions about their network and receive in-depth answers in seconds through an intuitive conversational interface. Learn more at www.goodship.io.
So let's talk about kind of the coaching tree, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's pretty cool. John Clay, one of the founders of Axle Logistics, was an Axis guy, total dog.
And he's up in Knoxville.
He's in Knoxville. Yeah. And then Mark Harrell, he came out of, he runs Trident. Him and Heath Haley, they run Trident. They're a couple $100 million. And
they're here.
Yep. Tamian, have you met with Chris ever?
I've not, but I've seen their building, right?
You got to meet Chris.
The fish, right?
Yeah.
It's like a fish.
He does a lot of more like managed trans stuff. Yeah. And so Chris is super bright. So he was kind of an access guy. Man, I mean, there's a lot more. I'm not thinking about it right this second. It's cool for me to see even like when Craig came out, Craig then is hiring people from Steam, and it's like, hey man, good for you. I love it. There's a better opportunity for somebody. Great for it. And here's what really hit me. A couple years ago, Steam was hiring a VP. And this guy, he called me for advice. He was at a different company in town. And he said, Ted, I have two $200,000 offers, okay, with two other logistics companies locally. I'm like, what? How that's when I knew it was working. When I'm like, it's like this ecosystem on the side where all this talent's like trying to hire each other, and the prices are getting higher. So that just helps as someone that, me and my partners are so committed to this place.
And that would have never been a thing.
No, that's crazy to say, right? And at the same time, I've got a neighbor who, worked for Chatham, which is a big global company based here that sold a French company. But he was like, Ted, I love consumer goods. And he goes, his company was getting outsourced. And he goes, man, I want to stay in Chattanooga, but there's nothing here for me to do. I have to move to Dallas or New Jersey. At the same time, this other guy has multiple $100,000 offers. It's like, okay, this is cool, And so like when you moved here, were you at all familiar with kind of the history of logistics or freight in Chattanooga at all? No, obviously, I mean, I got super involved with the Chattanooga Transportation Club right away. Just, I thought that was a way for me to network and make a name for our side. So folks like David Parker and Max Fuller, the two big trucking companies, they were like, gods in town of freight. And a lot of that stuff is, I've heard, it'd be interesting to ask them. Dalton, Georgia is about 30 miles away from here. Yeah. It's the carpet capital of the world, really. Yep. So you have Shaw and Mohawk there. So per capita, they're making more carpet than anywhere else in the world. And so I've always heard that Covenant US Express really scaled because of those two companies. So they were, doing that. And so, we were lucky early on. We were getting to backhaul some of the US Express and Covenant trucks. That was super helpful. We ended up, Ronald Ramsey is a great guy, and Andy Ellington came from US Express. So we got a lot of young talent from them early on. They weren't super happy about that. But actually Max Fuller was cool. He's like, hey man, it's free country. People can go work where they want. That was really cool for him to say that because Ronald really rated them hard early. And Tranco is a warehouse company doing well. And Kinco is a old family run warehouse company. So definitely had some roots here. I think we were like young and, super young at the time. It was, early 20s, starting a freight brokerage. And at the time, it was really like, ooh, yuck. I mean, like people did not like freight brokers. I don't know if they love them now, but you can't really.
Well, I mean, you guys basically kind of helped catalyze like the spotlight being on freight broker a little more, I feel like. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
I think here's what we did. We made it really cool. Yeah. We helped make it cool. Not me, but some of the younger folks. We made it a cool thing. We paid people well. We had like an attitude too. And some of that stuff we probably learned from what they were doing up in Chicago, Jeff and them. And also the kind of cool thing, we were like 3 years behind TQL. And it's something, me and my partners talk about a lot, is like we were on the exact same growth strategy. As Access was like first year, 2 million. Then it was like 4, 8, 18, 35, 54, 97, 180, 350, 490. So we got to $500 million in 12 years. But if you look back at TQL at the same time, we were kind of growing at the same clip.
And you guys didn't raise any money, right?
No, yeah. So that's another thing. We just kept pouring back into the we were super lean, like our corporate office. It's like, I remember going to Chicago the first time and going up there and being like, Jeff was showing us this like, oh, here's our marketing arm. Here's our recruiting arm. Here's all, we're like, oh my God, there's like 7 of us at corporate office, like doing a million things. So we weren't really like built to really scale. I mean, we were doing it, but we were like using clubs and sticks and fighting, and they had a lot better technology than us at the time. And so I think that's one of the reasons we were, and we were having fun too. I mean, we're over here starting Lampposts. We've got like 15 companies on the side, and we're like energized. Like, I don't know if I love, at the time loved running 600 employees or whatever we had. I was having more fun, like, oh, hey, let's get an idea and go do this. And we really kind of have always enjoyed being early stage.
Yeah. And Craig just credited kind of the Access sale as like a big catalyst for like growth in Chattanooga, the Chattanooga ecosystem in general, because it kind of put the spotlight on Chattanooga a bit. Obviously it brought some capital here that wasn't here before.
Yeah.
And you guys have kind of committed to staying here and basically investing that capital here too. So,
yeah.
I mean, talk like, was that a foregone conclusion? Like you guys were like, it was never.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I think this is a, great place to raise a family. Obviously, it's low cost of living. You've got so many good amenities. You can move here. It's a medium-sized community, but you can do things quickly. You can get on the phone with people. People are like pulling in the same direction. Mm-hmm. Like that's the truth. I mean, we could call the mayors, call senators, and they're like, hey, let's meet, talk, let's recruit. So there's like a grittiness here that I think you don't find in a lot of other communities. And someone said once, maybe we have a chip on our shoulder because we're between Nashville and Atlanta. So we're like, dang, we got to do things differently. But it's like, you can get anywhere in like 15 minutes, which is great. The local food scene is awesome. We have, some world-class schools here. And so, so I think we just, after the sale, you saw some people starting other companies as well here. And then the Flywheel just started, and then you're seeing some tech companies here. There's a guy that has a hedge fund in Chattanooga. I don't know if you've met him, Westbrow Capital. Have you heard about him?
No.
Yeah. So this guy is literally just like trucking stocks in Chattanooga, and not just Chattanooga, in nationwide. Yeah. And so you're seeing all these transitional company. There's factoring companies here. Ryan Rogers, a text company here. Craig really, he brought the microphone with FreightWaves, and that was really like, okay, he's bold and audacious, and he's got the megaphone, and so we're letting him kind of just run with that. But it's attracting folks from all over the world to move here, and so I think as folks that live here, Chattanooga has really started. Our roots are in Coca-Cola bottling. So in 1899, these two entrepreneurs, Pemberton was making this Coke syrup in Atlanta at the time. These two local guys came up with putting a bottle in a Coke. They went down there to try to buy the bottling rights, and they said, hey, that's crazy. I'm going to give you the rights. Mm-hmm. So the bottling rights to Coca-Cola were actually sold for $1, which was never collected. They came back and they started setting up, manufacturing plants for Coca-Cola. And so a lot of the wealth in Chattanooga is from Coca-Cola. But I think of as folks that are super involved with philanthropic stuff here, me and my partners are like, hey, we need to create more wealth here. And, the quickest way to acquire wealth is to have equity in things. And so I think for our point of view, it's like, man, we need more HQs here. We need, more. And so, and for us, we think a wedge, obviously this cluster that's building here, there's 90 companies now locally that are involved with logistics. And again, 15 years ago, literally it was around 5, like legitimately there was, not a whole lot going on. And so I think we've kind of seen something we need to run after. And so we're just kind of trying to double down on that and think creatively. And the truth is, like, logistics is cool now. Like, I don't think people thought of that 15 years ago. And now, UTK has one of the best supply chain schools in America. The new chancellor at UTC, Lori, she is like, hey, I'm committed to this. I want to get our students at UTC, Tennessee at Chattanooga. She wants to start a supply chain major. For us, that's huge because we'll hire them like crazy, and we've really benefited from UTC. Jason Provence went there, Andrew Ladabashe went there, Ryan Daugherty, a lot of kind of legends locally have come locally from Tennessee.
Today's Freight Caviar podcast is also brought to you by Bitfreighter. Bitfreighter is a freight integration platform built for transportation. Connect shippers directly into your broker TMS and automate the life of your loads from quoting to communication to execution. Replace unpredictable EDI costs with fixed rate connectivity and use Live Quote to move from waiting to winning. With thousands of pre-built integrations on Bitfreighter, you're not looking at another integration project. You're looking at turnkey shipper connections, reduce manual work, create more opportunities, and grow without transaction penalties. Bitfreighter is the only platform that connects you to all of your shippers, allowing you to automate quoting through invoicing with both Shipper Connect and Live Quote. Go to bitfreighter.com to learn more.
One thing we were talking about too with Craig was it was trucking, then brokerage, and then insurance, right, with Reliance. And now it's kind of splintered off into a million different things that all kind of roll back up into being logistics, right? And you've got Repower doing trailers.
Yeah.
You've got us. We moved here. Truck Parking Club moved here. We're doing parking trucks and trailers. And then you've got probably companies in here, right? And then companies you guys have invested in, and you've got Bellhop and Cam Mountain.
That's
those
right.
Guys. And it's that kind of network effect just spiders out, and all of a sudden you go from the core aspect of the industry, trucking brokerage, to everything that surrounds it. And I'm wondering what's it going to look like, in the next generation, then in another 10 years, another 20 years.
Well, that's a great, and I didn't mention this. We started Dynamo 8 years ago, and the thesis at the time, literally, I'd moved to London for a year after we sold Access. I took a year sabbatical, and while I was over there, I can't sit still. So I was a Techstar mentor. So Techstars is kind of like Y Combinator's big competitor. And I met a guy named John Bradford, and John came to Chattanooga on a trip. He was based in London. He came on a trip to Chattanooga, and he started looking at our portfolio at lampposts. He goes, when y'all do logistics and transportation, y'all smoke it. He's like, AT Cares, and we had Bellhops and Ambition and all these things in logistics. He's like, we should start a fund, just focus on logistics. And we said, it sounds good to us. But the market told us, they go, I don't know if it's a big enough industry. Literally. That's what all the VCs said. They go, and the LPs, they're like, is logistics big enough? We're like, hell yeah, it's big enough. And so it was weird. That was the first feedback. And in that first fund, Stored was in Chattanooga for 3 months. Sean Henry was at Georgia Tech. He came here, went through our accelerator, and we kind of helped guide him early on. He dropped out of school. He was there, a company called Cinder. Cinder's based in Berlin. They spent 3 months in Chattanooga. They were kind of with us, shadowing at Steam, probably, learning a lot of good stuff. Gaddick is a driverless truck company. Okay. They were kind of in our fund one. So we kind of had there's 3 unicorns right there in our fund one. And so like you said, Gaddick is doing, electric driverless trucks on private yards right now. Well, now they're starting to, look at Waymo, look at these different companies. So the whole industry, it's not going anywhere, but it's going to transform and go different directions. Like US Express and Covenant were that's just the truck guys locally. Now, what's going to happen in 10 years? I mean, who knows?
That's kind of the cool part, though. I mean, you get to create this kind of like gravity through like all like the legacy you guys have built, the companies that have kind of come around and started to play in the ecosystem. There's money invested in the community, and that kind of, and then Craig helps really shine a light on the story and tell the story on the national scale, and then hopefully we can help with that too. Now, obviously, I live here now too, and I'm interested in seeing this place flourish as a new participant in the ecosystem. But that's all kind of like a viral thing that's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's probably going to go, more like this, which is good for everyone who's here too, already in existence. I mean, it's just like an incredible like process, if you will.
Well, I'm going to read you a quote. Is that all right?
Go.
Okay. So this is probably one of my favorite quotes over the last 5 years. And it's something I think me and my partners at Dynamo and Brickyard live by, but it's Naval. You familiar with him? He's the man. His Joe Rogan podcast, first one, is maybe one of the best podcasts I ever listened to. But he said, play long-term games with long-term people. All returns in life, whether in wealth, relationships, or knowledge, come from compound interest. And so I think that's what we are just continue to do here as a community, is just we keep reinvesting with relationships, being like, hey man, kind of stuck with us for life. I don't know what, it's just what the way it is.
Yeah, perhaps this whole ecosystem is just a story of compounding effects.
I really think it is.
Yeah.
Honestly, that gave me chills even you saying that.
Yeah.
Because that's what I believe in my heart. We're with a group of friends having a really good adventure together. And so we're just kind of committed to each other and doing things together. And a lot of that comes from me, Barry and Alan, just being best friends, fraternity brothers, and we love each other. We're stuck with each other, and we just keep doing things together. And I think that relationship, the three of us definitely has kind of helped a lot of other things through the years. And then, it's kind of different direction, but my wife and I have started a school called Chattanooga Prep. That's, my wife, we moved back and, God kind of put in her heart to start this school, and I'm like, let's go for it. And so we started with 70 sixth grade boys. It's a charter school. 80% of our kids kind of live around the poverty line. So it's economically disadvantaged kids. And so we have just like full-time committed to these kids. Our seniors, we had our first graduating class last year. Our school has 520 kids. We've started a second school in Knoxville now, but our first graduating class, we had 52 seniors, 100% college acceptance, $3 million in scholarships, valedictorians on a full ride at Carnegie Mellon. And our valedictorian has spent the last 2 summers here at Brickyard. He's first generation college student, and he's here during the summers working. He's computer engineer major. Like he's like, oh, I'm coming back and I'm starting a company. That's going to be cool when we have chat prep kids
10 years.
pitching here and, whatever. So, again, that's kind of something that we're super committed to, like just a different, set of kids that have not had the same doors open for them or the same opportunities. We're like and my partners are totally aligned and they're mentoring, and they're just so into what we're doing. And Paul's a supporter of the school, and that's super cool to us. But so and I think a lot of things too, like the STEAM guys are super committed. Those kids are going down to STEAM. They're freaking working at STEAM. Talk about life changing. Yeah. If they can, graduate college and come back and work at one of those companies, which is super cool. And it's not just STEAM, it's a lot of the other logistics companies. The CFO at Covenant Transport had a kid over there. He wants to be finance guy. He's like showing them, stuff there. So it's really kind of open up my Rolodex and my partner's Rolodex to opportunities for different kids. So
today's episode is also brought to you by TrackFlow. Here's something every freight broker needs to know. In Montgomery versus Carib Transport, the Supreme Court just ruled brokers can be sued directly for negligent hiring. Vetting your carrier is only half the fight. Once that load is booked, every call, email, text, and stop update becomes part of the record a court will want to see. That's where our partner, TrackFlow, comes in. TrackFlow automatically builds a defensible audit trail for every shipment from booking through delivery. No manual logging, no digging through your inbox for a call from 3 weeks ago, just a time-stamped record you can pull up the second you need it. Right-size your tracking team, win on service. Visit trackflow.tech.
Yeah, I mean that's incredible, and that's going to only further accelerate the compounding, right?
Right.
If a certain percentage of those kids end up coming back here, then that's gonna, that's just going to be a completely different. Wow, I mean that's pretty incredible. Obviously, you didn't really think about that in the beginning. You were just like, oh, we're just gonna like build something. You're like, your wife had this idea, and she's like, we're gonna start the school. It's going to be good for the community, good for the kids. It's needed, and a secondary consequence of that is going to be in 10 years, a lot of them are going to be excited to come here and do stuff and probably be involved with the other things that you've done, right? Because you've impacted their life. So that's pretty incredible.
Oh man, it's my everything, honestly. My wife and I just love it. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, like times a million, but it's so the satisfaction that you get, helping kids is just, you can't even describe it, honestly. It's going to be really cool long term.
What would you say, like, to somebody who's considering starting a company in logistics, be it a brokerage, whatever, tech, whatever, like, why come to Chattanooga?
Yeah. We had a YC founder here in town last week, and, I think I didn't get a chance to meet with him, but he sent me a nice message. And I think this is a super welcoming place. I think it's people, I look back on my life when we started Access, okay? A guy got me in with Komatsu, okay? And this is with me and like 3 other people. And at the time that was mind-blowing, but he gave us a shot, and because we moved here. And we're like, hey, and I'm like, whoa, they have no idea. They should not be giving me any freight at this point. I need to be hauling brick and like some cheap steel. But that, I think it's just a really welcoming place that believes in itself. And these relationships are real. It's really fertile ground here. And I don't know, man. I think it's a community built by builders with Chatham and Coca-Cola and U.S. Express and Covenant. And so, even early on, U.S. Express and Covenant were giving me a chance to like backhaul their trucks. Like that was not even normal. I was like at the time there wasn't as much theft happening and MC numbers and all that. It was a different world back then. But it was a place that gave me a chance. And so I think starting a logistics company here, I think it's a 100-mile radius. There's 20 million people. So you can be in Knoxville, Birmingham, Nashville, Atlanta in 2 hours. And so there's a huge density of freight here. Craig talks about like driving through Chattanooga is one of the biggest bypasses of freight in America coming down, which is not good for our traffic. That's a whole nother issue. But yeah, I don't know. There's capital here. There's relationships here. There's an energy here. There's enthusiasm. There's people that are committed to a place long term, and I don't think a lot of other cities are like that. Yeah,
I totally agree. Any parting thoughts you wanna impart to the audience?
Oh man, no, I don't think so. I'm just jazzed for Freight Caviar's their new magazine. I love it. They're zigging when everyone else is zagging. I think that's super, super wise, and they're bringing a lot of energy. And they're when they came on the scene, I'm like, man, this is fun. I see people laughing in the audience and like resharing memes and stuff like that. Like, life is hard, and let's have some fun. And I think you've done a great job of bringing Huber to a serious place, and that was needed, right? And like making this place cool, because there's so many like logistics companies that are hiring people right out, because it's a hard job. I mean, think about it. You come to work every day. If you work for a big brokerage, you have 1,000 loads to book every day. Every day, 1,000 different carriers could do it, and somehow it's magic. It happens. It's a stressful job. I know a lot of successful people that get out of it and are like, holy crap, I did that for 10 years. That was the hardest 10 years of my life. It's a beatdown. There's a lot of fatigue, and brokers sometimes get a bad name, but man, they make a lot of things happen that wouldn't happen.